Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Another episode of the Stoneywood Dyce Cricket Club podcast. The fans asked for it. The people demanded it. So here we are. Paddy Moroney joins us with Stuart Coetzer. Glad we could make this happen. Paddy, after I got all those notifications after the David Lamb and Mike Lowe one, had to get you on. Mike Lowe sent me a message straight away saying you've got to get Paddy on. So here we are. So glad to have you. And of course, who better to pair him with than a Coetzer. Obviously, we had Sean last week, and we've got Kyle next week. So all we need now to complete is Pete, who seems like a bit of a legend. So how have you guys been keeping busy in lockdown?
Well, Paddy, you want to go first?
Yeah, we've been having I think we're in day 71 now of our lockdown, so it's been quite hectic. Yeah. We had I think the first 3 weeks was really tough and extended to 5 weeks. But yeah, it's been good time with the family. I had a new little baby girl during lockdown, so it was quite good to spend some time with her. Just seeing it through now, getting a little bit frustrated, but we're getting there.
Happy days.
Yeah, we're getting lots of sleep then, Paddy.
What's that?
You'll be getting lots of sleep.
You're being funny, eh? And I did manage to do about just over 1,000 kilometers on my training bike, so that's a
bad effort. The miles.
Not bad at all. Yeah.
Stewie, been out on the golf course yet?
Yeah, I've got 2 rounds in, been okay so far. But I mean, I spent the first few weeks concentrating on growing my handlebar moustache. I got rid of that, and then in reality, I've been concentrating on growing back my hair, but with mixed success on that front. But other than that, planting vegetables and looking after animals. That's what we have here out in Kemney.
Is that what you call your kids? Animals.
Oh yeah, them too.
Anyway, so today we're going to focus on the 2001 season, obviously where Paddy joined us from South Africa, and then after that we'll go into what you guys have done after 2001, because obviously Stu, you play for Scotland, and Paddy, Mike Lowe has informed me that you are quite high in the selectors in South African cricket, so we can discuss that as well. So first of all, 2001, how did Stoneywood come about then, Paddy? Did you get approached, or was it agency, or?
I'm not too sure how we made the original connection. The season before me, they had Arno Jacobs. I don't know if you've heard of him.
We have honours boards at Stoneywood with all the hundreds.
Yeah,
it's just Arno Jacobs.
I think he scored 1,050 runs at an average of about 130.
Yeah,
and I think the next runs to him was the amateur that year, Jean Lemaître.
Yeah.
And other than that, there was absolutely nothing. So, when I arrived at Stoneywood, the first thing I had to tell the guys is that I'm no Arno Jacobs. So if we were going to do well, we were going to have to score some runs, and everybody's got to chip in and do their bit.
You had a big task joining us at that point without any runs coming from anybody else.
Yeah. But at least that changed the following season. I mean, even David Lamb, at my season, I mean, he must have been close to 500 runs.
Yeah, he had a really good season. I was looking at the stats today.
I mean, there was one of the Coetzers that scored runs. I won't embarrass Stewie now and say it's not him. But, it was a totally different season. But, I came over with Casper van der Walt, or Casper Gowdy, because, I mean, he stayed with the Gowdies. It was really... I don't know how it came about, actually. I don't know who contacted me. It might have been David Lamb or Pete Coetzer. I mean, at those days, Pete did quite a lot of the finding of the players overseas.
Yeah.
And another one of the pros that was over there, Dave Shaw. So it might have come about with Dave Shaw. I'm not too sure. But,
okay. So we had a decent season anyway. It was quite a strong league. A lot of Glasgow teams. I was looking at it, and fifth in the league. So not a bad season. One same as we'd lost. Paddy, you actually did really well. You took 30 wickets, if you can remember. 30 wickets, third highest in the league, behind Casper, who was second at 31. And you went at under threes. So I know cricket's evolved since then, but still not too bad. So what were your first memories, really, of landing in Aberdeen and coming to Stoneywood?
Well, I must say, getting to People's Park first up was quite amazing. I mean, you kind of land on the cricket field, as you come in. So yeah, I mean, it was something totally different to what I was used to back home in Alberton. Big oval, everything laid on. So yeah, it was really different. I mean, the small clubhouse, everything was totally something that I wasn't used to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, I just fell in love with the ground, everything from the word go. It was amazing.
Where did you stay? Because I was thinking it was the caravan, but it must not be in the caravan back then.
No. I first started off with Bob and Pauline Lamb. I think Bob then was the president of the club. Mm-hmm. And then the ladies got the caravan ready, so I moved into the caravan eventually, which suited me to a T, because after practice we could go from there, have a beer in the clubhouse, and then go straight to bed. So yeah, it was good. I enjoyed that.
So
Stewie, what was your first memories of Paddy then?
Putting boxing gloves on me is the first thing I can remember Paddy doing. I remember meeting him and going and being introduced, and Paddy, large in life character, and he goes, right, we're going to do some boxing because it's good for your fitness. And I remember just about throwing up after the first practice with Paddy. So that was my very first memory of Paddy. And actually, I mean, for a season, I was trying to think back. I mean, I've had lots of good seasons, and I've certainly had, I mean, we'll talk about Paddy's cricket for that season, because I don't really want to talk about my cricket that year. It wasn't particularly good. But, yeah, I mean, I think, what was it, highest score of 34 for the club that year?
I wasn't going to mention your stats, Stu. I didn't even write them down. I had a quick scan of that year. I was like, I'll get Stuart Coetzer on. I'm sure he had a good year that year, but you came later on, did you?
No, but I mean, I'll tell you, for me, that year was, I think back on all the cricket seasons I played, and I've had good years on cricket, but in terms of an overall year, I think that was the most fun I've ever had at Stoneywood. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just think of the capers, and I mean, I was trying to figure it out when I got asked to get on the podcast. I was, geez, 2001 is a heck of a long time. I can't really remember that much, but I started going back through some of the scorecards and remembering what happened, trying to think about what I remember from Paddy. And actually, I think for me, that year was probably pretty big in terms of my own personal development. Not as a cricketer a lot, because I still remember Paddy's 1 foot balance drills. Remember those, Paddy?
Yeah.
From 1 foot and balancing over the knee. But also kind of from a personal perspective, because I actually think we had Arno the year before, and Arno was some player. So I think if I was to say the two people, apart from, my dad and what, influences that you get from Kyle and Sean, but the two people who influenced how I became on the cricket field and in that environment were Arno, because Arno hit straighter and better than any player I've ever played against. Played with, should I say. And Paddy taught me about the fun side of the cricket, how social it could be. And that's honestly, I think that it carried on through me, and for the later years.
Is that what started the Friday night beers, as everyone's liked to mention on the podcast before?
Well, I was very professional. I think part of the problem, I mean, I think I was always a decent enough player, but I actually took it a bit too seriously, if I'm being honest. And it was only once I loosened up under the year that Paddy was there that I actually think I started to play particularly well. I had quite a few good seasons after that. But so I mean, I put that down to Paddy. But I mean, the kind of life skills learned while Paddy was there, it was all about kind of being social, and I learned a lot from Paddy in that time. I mean, as I say, that was the most fun summer I think I've had playing cricket. I mean, I don't think I played particularly well that year, but it was pivotal in future years. And some of the training, I enjoyed the training as well. We were pushed pretty hard. I think that's the hardest we trained.
Yeah. So we'll get onto the memories of the 2001 season. I know you've got your notes ready. You went down memory lane. So what was can you remember your debut, Paddy? Because you did quite well in it. Can you remember the first few games?
No, I think the only game I really remember was when we played Clydesdale and we faced Yasser Arafat.
Yeah.
And that was messy. But no, who was our first game?
I think your first game, I've got it here.
Stirling County, Sajid Ali, I think, was in that.
Sterling. You took
Sterling.
a forfeit. You took a forfeit, and then you saw us home, I think, with a bat.
Yeah. Sterling was. It was. We beat them twice, I think, that season.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the week after, you took your best fifer for 31 against Force. Second game in. So I mean, 9 wickets in 2 games. Folk must have thought you were the next big thing or something.
Well, I'll tell you what. The reason is we didn't travel that far, so it was only halfway down. So you see, it's when we started traveling all the way down there that it got bad. But it was also getting used to the wickets. Mm-hmm. I mean, in the previous seasons where I played in England, it was a lot different. I mean, you got to the Scottish wickets and you arrived at some of the grounds and you're like, all right, so there's no game here. And they're like, no, the wicket's prepared. It looks quite decent. And I'm like, geez, we're not playing on that. So, yeah, it was fairly, totally different. And, I was left arm through and around.
Yeah. Paddy,
I wouldn't be doing justice if I said I turned it. But I could deceive you with, a bit of flight and pace.
The best spinners don't turn it. Ask Michael Lowe.
Yeah.
One of the things Paddy, I always remember when you talk about through and around is the number of times you told the umpire that he needed to stand back further because you needed more space to get through.
Still, I got that umpire, and I couldn't believe why I wasn't getting a decision. It was in a Scottish Cup game. And I was like, geez, this boy's missing a good game. And somebody said to me, Paddy, something about Catholic and Protestant and my surname. And he says, no matter how well you bowl, you're not going to get anything from him. But I had to come back a little bit. I needed a bit of space. You're right.
So what's your both favourite, if you can remember any memorable games? We'll get on to the fun stuff after, but any memorable moments in games? Obviously, the Yasser Arafat one, a few folk I spoke about when your dad walked out to face Yasser Arafat with that helmet, which I would not be doing for long.
I was frightened for his life that game. He just walked out, and I knew he could barely see at the best of times. But when he was walking out and batting without a helmet, it's like, Dad, don't you just want to put on a helmet? Please put on a helmet. But he went out and he smacked a few straight sixes, and it was good to watch him. I was. I guess my memorable one, and Paddy, I don't know whether you're in this, but Casper had it. That was in the game in the season. We actually, I was playing. It wasn't a first team game, but I was playing. It must have been second. For whatever reason, we played down in Montrose. And I didn't even know there was a cricket field down in Montrose. And he had to hold the ball. I was keeping wicket to him, and it was on an artificial. And he bowled this ball, and I was standing up because the artificial was not up, but I was real close. And Casper wasn't slow. And this ball shot through and hit me in the throat behind the stump. So that was during that game. And then Morag Gowdy says, right, when you're batting, if you can hit 6 out the park and it hits a car, then I'll do a streak around the cricket field for you. I thought, well, fair enough. So this guy bowled a short ball and I hit it out the park onto a policeman's windshield, smashed his windscreen. I'm still waiting for the streak if Morag's watching this.
That's good.
No,
yeah, go buddy.
No, you go.
No, I was saying if you got any games to remember.
I must say that a memorable one for me was when we went down to Greenock. Mm-hmm. I think that day we played 4 or 5 Scotland players.
Yeah.
We gave them a fair run for their money. And even when they came up to us, we didn't have much of a game. I think it was quite rain affected. They had a wedding and they asked us to start earlier so they could all go back, and they all got dressed in their kilts all on the way home. Mm-hmm. But I must say that season playing some really tough competitors, the Clydesdales, the Greenwicks being down there. I think that year they played Grange in the final of the Scottish Cup. Greenock.
Yeah, well, they won the league, isn't it? I think Cregan and that said last week it's a bit like a who's who. It was just Scotland player, Scotland player, Scotland player.
Yeah, my biggest regret that season is we couldn't play Aberdeenshire. Because those days, when you arrived there, the first thing you didn't like was Aberdeenshire, because it was just tough competition. I think Jan changed that a little bit over the years, joining the club, and I had the privilege of not playing with Jan but meeting him afterwards, and even at Gordon's wedding. It's just fantastic characters that I think has built that club over many years. That's made it very special.
Absolutely, agreed. So, what about? Let's just get into the juicy stuff then. Reel off your memories from that season, both of you. Just the memorable moments. I know there was some waxing and stuff, Paddy, you were up to.
I must say, just the last one on the cricketing side, I must tell you, for a club that had its only source of getting players was going to fetch them. We had that coaching system in schools during the week, and we had Bob Lamb used to go with me to the schools. I remember the one boy, at schools like, "Hey, Baldy, what do you know about cricket?" kind of thing. And I'm like, back home you'd get a slapping if you speak to an older guy like that. But it was just we had to go find those talents, and a youngster that in my time I think was the most talented cricketer there was a guy by the name of Fraser Murray. Fraser didn't go on to play a lot of cricket afterwards, but I really always thought that boy had the talent to play very, very good cricket. The one nice thing about Michael Leask is nothing's changed from then to now. He talks as much then as he does now. I had the privilege of seeing the Scottish side in Durban. I flew down to go and see Kyle and them on their recent tour. I think it's before they had a warm-up before the qualifiers of the World Cup. Leesky was just Leesky. He was energy in abundance.
Still tried to hit everything out of the park, did he?
Oh, you could do everything. You didn't have to teach Mikey Leesky anything. Mikey already knew how to do it. He was brilliant. And you're going to have Kyle in the next week. Yeah. I do believe that even if Kyle had to be in South Africa, playing in the bigger countries, I think Kyle had enough talent to play even for South Africa. He's just an exceptional bloke and an exceptional cricketer. The difference between him and his two brothers is he could take what his dad taught him and put it into action. The other two, I think, had more raw talent, but they were different. But every horse for every course. They were fantastic guys when I was over there. We really enjoyed it. Yeah. The club was amazing. When the nets there by the fence, I think in the third week I was there, I started preparing middle nets for the practice at night in the middle. Alan Barron nearly had a heart attack. Kevin Maver, Ian McRae, those guys just couldn't believe what's happening. But right throughout the season, we practiced in the middle. I think as a team, we practiced the hardest that club's ever trained. We were the best fielding team by a long shot. So it was exceptional. I don't know if you ever came across Matthew Cohen.
Yeah, I've met Matthew Cohen. Yeah, played a few games with him when I was a junior. I think he played in threes and grades teams and all that.
Yeah, he was a fantastic bloke. He was the only guy that could have dinner and leave half of it on his tie. His old man, Danny Cohen, I used to coach him on a Friday morning at about 8 o'clock. And I never got up that early out of that caravan. And Danny, in that season, scored 100 for the grades. I think it was, we had grade 1 side and a grade 3 side.
Yeah.
And Danny went on to score 100 for the grade side. It was fantastic. Getting to the waxing side, we had a very social year. There's on away games, the youngsters, the Stewies, the Shawns, those guys always wanted to stop at McDonald's. And Bob was our bus driver. So I negotiated with Bob. Bob, we don't have to stop at McDonald's with that plastic food. We can stop at the Horn for a bacon butty.
Agreed. I'm with you, yeah.
And we don't have to stop for that. And then, of course, on the way back, that's where all the shenanigans were. Because, again, Bob didn't want the plastic food of McDonald's. So we stopped at the Bridge of Allen, was a fish and chip shop.
Yeah.
Which I don't know for how many years was the best in Britain. And the only problem with that, it was very close to a pub called the Crooked Arm. So, we did fairly well there. There's no doubt about it.
Paddy, I think that was your master stroke for the season, convincing Bob that we should be going to the Bridge of Allen, because I think probably by the end of the year, he probably thought maybe I should have been going to McDonald's instead.
There would have been less spewing on the bus if he did that. That's for sure. We did go to that one pub in Glasgow where I was seeing the Northern Lights of Old Aberdeen, where David Lamb just shut my mouth and he says, "Paddy, you do not sing the Northern Lights of Old Aberdeen in Glasgow." So yeah, no, it was a very, very memorable season. We had some amazing nights down at the club. We had barbecues. We all talk about the waxing. We had fundraisers. Until Fraser's mom actually offered the odds, and they started waxing. It went from legs to upper legs to pubes. It was messy. So it was. I think the clubhouse local drink was Red Bull and vodka out of a soup ladle, out of a pot. So we had some very, very, very good evenings.
Yeah, I can still remember the scream, Paddy.
What scream?
They waxed.
Oh yeah.
I've got the ones I remember, Paddy, is Drumpellier down in Glasgow. I checked the scorecards and we didn't play Drumpellier that year. We just saw them twice. Once with, I guess we travelled down to there. We didn't play for hardly any time, and Paddy disappears into the changing room. I think we were having fines actually out the front or somewhere like that, and that proceeded to next Paddy turning up in his jockstrap and cruising on out into the middle of the field and kind of doing a Jurgen Klinsmann across the top of the Drumpellier covers, and then coming back in. I think a few others eventually joined, but. That was, I guess, one of my memories of you, Paddy, that year was, and it's another one that sticks with me. The other one, and I don't know whether you remember this, right, was the day you took me to the pub in Stoneywood.
Jeez, the wooden bar.
Remember that? Yeah, it rained, didn't it? And the game was called up at about 1:00, and I was asleep, not able to walk at about 4:30 that afternoon.
I think we had about 1,000-pound bull at the wooden bar. So yeah, it was good. And Casper was one fine cricketer, but Casper did not like paying for a round of drinks. So the one day he just got paid, and we actually went down to the pub. And we had a good night in the pub, and the one guy had a stag do, and they had like a girl dressed up as a police officer and came and handcuffed him and the whole lot. And we had a whole night on the drink, and the next minute, as we were about to leave, I said, "Cus, do you mind getting this one?" And he looked at me like, "Geez, like I was drinking all night, like you were paying. Now you're dropping this bomb on me." But yeah, that wooden bar one, we were playing pool. You remember that? Yeah, it was a fantastic local. The one thing I hated about that local was, so you'd get out of People's Park and you had to drive all the way around to get into the neighborhood because that road was closed at the top. And then I had to leave my Citroen there at the pub, and then walk all the way to the clubhouse. And then the next day I have to walk back or jog back to get the car at the
long walk, admittedly.
I'll tell you what, that was one fantastic car.
That's Citroen. Yeah. What did you call it? You used to call it the Citroen.
Citroen, yeah. You could take the keys out the ignition and it was still running. So
You've got a story about the Citroen, haven't you, Stewie?
we had a what's the name? We had the gang mower on the back of the Citroen, cutting the outfield. So
I mean, for me, the Citroen, I've got a few lasting memories of Paddy, and it's a long time back. But the other thing is, you used to take off in this little Citroen, and big chap in that tiny little car, arm out the window like this. And then, I mean, I remember following him through Bucksburn and just seeing him kind of chuntering along in this little Citroen. That's a lasting memory for me as well.
I tell you what, we used to do quite a lot of lunchtimes at, what was that Chinese place? Jimmy Chung's.
Jimmy Chung's.
£4 something, or lunchtime it was like £2.75. Eat as much Chinese as you want. I mean, the chef used to come out the kitchen to watch Casper eat. I mean, he couldn't believe one man can enjoy his food that much as Casper. It was just unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, he did have the nickname the Drain. So that was fantastic. But going back to the Citroen and cutting the grass. So on a good Thursday, I saw the guy of the council, and he had one of these lawnmowers tractors that just had these blades. And I walked up to him and I said, "Geez, where do you cut?" He says, "No, he cuts all along here and all up there." And I said, "Don't you want to just come and cut the outfield?" And he said, "Yeah, he can't actually." And eventually I got him convinced that he needs to help me. So on the Thursday, I made sure I had the gate open. He'd come in, he'd literally ride around the field 3 or 4 times, and the whole outfield would be cut. It took me a whole day and a tank of petrol to cut it with the gang mowers on the back of the Citroen. So that was fantastic. And you could hook the gang mower off and then go out with your car. No, it was fantastic. That car must have, after that season, not been in play again.
Yeah. No idea. I've never seen a car before at the club. Yeah. So one thing I was going to ask you is, can any of you remember the riddle that Mikey Lowe and David Lamb talked about? What was the riddle you did before you drunk all the stuff? Can you remember it?
There was loads. There was loads of things.
Oom Wogeren, oom Lageren, oom Verderen, oom Naderen, ik tiet en ik ballen, ik blink nie, ik stink nie. Wie is ek om nie te drink nie? Okay, no, the boys. Mike Lowe should know that. I mean, he's more Afrikaans than anybody at the club.
Yeah. I definitely never said that one. I mean, I've got a whole different set of words for that one, but we were like 6 or 7 down by that point.
Well, the actual song was "He's Mean, He's Lean, He's a Run Machine," Paddy Moroney. I mean, that was the song. Everybody knew that song. So. And then I think somebody changed it to "He's fat, he's round, he bounces on the ground, Paddy Moroney." We had some good ones, there's no doubt about
it. So what will we go to? Any more stories or anything from that year?
I'm just trying to think if I got anything else there. Well, I mean, the only other thing I remember that season, and you mentioned it earlier on, Paddy, is Lammy's runs. I still remember him at Hill Head smacking 80 on, and pretty much I have this vision of him hitting every single ball that went. I mean, I remember that game for another reason as well, and that was because that was the day I got taught never to talk back as a batsman. It just wasn't worth it, because I think they had a pro chap called Parmenter, and I had a bit of it. They were having a nibble at me during the game, and I nibbled back. That don't typically tend to do, but I nibbled back and then off the next ball. So I was that was a quick lesson. But I mean, I remember Lammy got 200s or 300s in that year.
Yeah, I think it was 200s and 500 runs overall.
Yeah, and then he got a 90 odd as well. And I still remember that Hill Head game when he was pretty much just smashing it out the park. I mean, for me that year, I remember Lammy. And then the other one was. I don't know whether Matty was at his quickest. I think Matty was. I remember Matty Cohen. I mean, for all the Scottish players that I've faced in my time, Matty Cohen was the quickest one. I mean, I remember batting. We had the concrete nets, didn't you? We did, Paddy, when you were there. Matty Cohen running in and off of 18 yards, kind of putting one in spot at the ribs. And I remember just.
I couldn't believe this when I heard he was the quickest man in Scotland. I thought they were taking the piss, but apparently he actually was.
Well, what made him dangerous was he didn't know where he was going to put it down. So you had no chance of knowing where he was going to bowl it. It could come hand to head. It could be short. It could be. I mean, you could feel that second slip and be in danger against Matty Cohen. So it was tough. Eh?
But I mean, he was genuinely quick, and I mean, he used to come in, as I say, and he would never bowl off of the front, off of the bowling, the crease. He would just come straight through it. And you're standing at the non-batsman end, just kind of because we used to shuttle between, and he would be like a yard and a half through the crease, and he was just rapid.
Yeah, and but just back at Davy, I mean, it's quite amazing that Lammy never got to play kind of for Scotland, because I mean, I just think at that point in time, nobody got picked in the North. I mean, the North kind of broke the ice with the young juniors that we had coming through the system, Sean, Stuart, even at that stage, not Kyle as much. But before that, they didn't recognize the North as quality cricketers. But in my book, I would like to have seen better cricketers than David Lamb. I mean, he was just exceptional, great cricketing mind. So yeah, it would have been.
He was a gun in the field as well.
Yeah. No, he was a proper all-round cricketer. There's no doubt.
I think the one thing that they forget about Stoneywood, and as good a job as Spivey used to do back then, is we were always on a green top. And the ball always swings and it always seams. So I can't remember. It was
and stays low.
Wade Wibbling or something like that. There was a South African guy who played first-class cricket over in South Africa. And I remember speaking to him a number of years ago, and he said average 40, in the Southern Hemisphere, but when he comes to Scotland, and he played a few years, to average 30 is a great season. And
I must tell you, the wind blowing at People's Park, I mean, the guys used to rock up and think, I'm just going to chip this over straight. Because, I mean, Paddy Cohen kind of had to climb over the fence to get his run up in. And but with the wind blowing, I mean, I saw many a guys hit it as hard as they can and not clear those boundaries, those straight boundaries, when the wind was howling. There's no doubt about it. And one thing is the wind always blew at People's Park. I mean,
Paddy, I was about to say, actually, just before we move on to maybe juicier stories, but the cricket team we had then was I was looking at the scorecards and just seeing who we had. I mean, we had a young chap, Chris Thompson, who could have been a great cricketer as well.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, my lasting memory, unfortunately, of Chris Thompson is we put up 325 against Forfarshire, and they chased it off the last ball with Chris shelling the ball on the boundary, dropping it.
Sean talked about that one, but he didn't say the name.
Yeah, no. I mean,
case the man's watching.
He was a good cricket player, and he could have been really good as well.
That's what I was going to say, though. It was a really young team, though, wasn't it? But it was a really good team.
Yeah,
I mean,
we had
three Coetzers.
Yeah, we had Mark McMillan.
Yeah, great. How old was Gowdy then? I don't think he was in.
Oh no, Gowdy wasn't there. We had Brando as well.
Ian Brand. Yeah.
We obviously had at that point that there was a pretty average player in Kyle. I mean, he might have got one of his only 50s for Stoneywood, but obviously he was like about 9 at the time or whatever.
Yeah, it was against Forfarshire, wasn't it? 60.
Yeah, and then Sean. We obviously had Lammy kind of more in the twilight of his career. Paddy helping.
Hey, don't forget Burger Bob, eh?
Oh yeah, our off pacer.
Robert. Yeah, don't forget him.
Bob, he was one of the best bowlers we had as a club, because he just put it on a dime every time and just nibbled it around. I mean, I remember I used to just I used to just stand up the whole game keeping. I think pretty much through a lot of that season, just stood up, and Bob would open the bowling and just go in and away. And I think we had stumpings off of Bob, Cots. It was bowled.
And a great club man. I mean, that whole family was just fantastic for the club. I mean, you talk about families. In that club when I was there, it wasn't just a player being involved. I mean, the whole family was involved. So, I mean, we used to have 4 families on a club evening, and the clubhouse would be full. So, it was.
Paddy, was Bob playing liar dice with you at that point?
Bob, lie dice.
Lie dice.
Yeah, lie dice.
He used to be like that. He used to cover his as the night went on. He used to cover his dice like that so that nobody could see it, and then he'd go, I've got 17 kings, but his hand would lift up like that so everybody could see it.
we can't tell too many stories about Bob, but I must tell you, the night he reversed over his toolbox on the way home. I mean, you know, and in my time, I was in trouble with quite a few wives. I mean, Pauline was one of them. She gave me a right bollocking for letting Bob have a drink at the club and then driving home. I think if I went back a second season, Mike Lowe would have never played for Stoneywood Dyce again. So it was a good thing. I mean, Karen didn't love me all that much in my season there. But, yeah, no, it was fantastic families. I mean, what was the little Macmillan was Happy Meal.
Happy Meal, that's right, yeah.
He's like, I tell you, he was as much effort as Michael Leask. I mean, the two of them just never stopped. I must tell you, one guy, though, that was amazing in that year, and it's amazing how he went on through the club, was Reed.
Martin Reed.
Martin Reed. I mean, just an absolute fantastic club guy. One morning, throwing throwdowns at him, or it could have been the afternoon. I mean, he didn't middle any. You know, and he was hard work. Yeah, and I tell you what, he middled one and he hit me right between the legs having throwdowns. And I tell you what, I thought I was going to die that day. I mean, he just absolutely, and I was so shocked. I don't know if it was because it was the pain or the fact that he middled one, but it was tough. Yeah. And another person, I mean, that club was and went on to most probably in certain terms Stoneywood Dyce's second biggest international player was Fiona Urquhart.
Yeah.
I mean, Fee was just absolutely fantastic. I mean, when I got there, she was a young girl playing in the grades with the boys, and standing her own, and very, very coachable. You know, always keen to learn more about the game. It was fantastic, and that's where Kyle as well. I mean, Kyle till today will tell you that playing on the leg side is not that difficult if you just stick to a certain amount of basics. And I mean, both of them, at any opportunity they got, they wanted me to throw balls at them and coach them and work with them. So yeah, it was just fantastic. It was brilliant.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, any last things for 2001 then, and we'll move on.
No, we can move on. Yeah.
So after 2001, Stu, you played for Scotland A. See, I've done my research. I've gone all through the archives here. Do you remember much about playing for Scotland A? I think Ireland was the debut in that season.
I couldn't tell you much about playing for Scotland A. No, can't really remember much. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, kind of playing the A-side stuff and things. A lot of it was keeping. I don't think I was tremendously productive until, I think at A-side I did well in 2003 and 2004, I think, and that's where I kind of peaked. And it was an interesting time because, I mean, I was working by that point, so you're trying to balance work life and having fun. So, I mean, I've obviously come up in a few podcasts already about my
the second part.
I mean, it was partly down to, you know, I enjoyed the game, but I enjoyed having fun as well, and I wasn't going to kind of miss out on either, trying to fit everything in. But I guess I made I got the Scotland debut was 2004. I think. Yeah,
I was going to go into that one as well. Yeah, 2004.
Yes, I mean, I guess a couple of stories that people probably don't know about that, which was. I got a phone call. I can't remember how soon it was before the game, and I'd scored a lot of runs in the season. I mean, I think I tallied it up and I scored over 1,000 runs, not just in club cricket, but I wasn't a great one for converting to hundreds as Mike Global.
Yeah, I've got that stat here. You got out in the 90s 4 times in the league in 2004.
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't particularly good, but I never really worried too much about it. I was still trying to hit every ball I could. I didn't worry about what was bowled at me or who was bowling at me. I just kind of, my whole game was based on not thinking about it. There was 2 things I tried to do. One, I learned from Arno, which was, for me, it was all about hands. You didn't really need to worry too much about your feet as long as your hands got into the right place. So, I mean, that was what I focused on, and the other was watching the ball. I tried to empty my mind of everything when I was actually batting, because as soon as I thought about something, I was pretty hopeless, to be honest. So, so hence why there was a couple of seasons where the club advocated I maybe go out and enjoy myself on a Friday night, and I wouldn't be fined so badly on the Saturday. But that night before my debut in 2004, I got a phone call. I was just expecting to be like a bottle carrier.
Yeah.
So I went out the night before the game. So I got the phone call I just driven, dropped my car off at friends, and I was walking from dropping my car off up to the party with a drink, and I stayed out and had some drinks that night before the game, and played the next day. Turned up, had to play, and that was my debut. And then the other one was that I remember from playing in the Saltires was you get the guy comes in after the game, and like in most sports, and goes, right, what does everybody want to have a drink? And being the new guy, I was asked first, and I asked for a Jack and Coke, whereas all the other athletes among them were asking for a fresh orange and lemon. So yeah, I probably wasn't presenting the most committed front on that one, but I mean, I was heavily into work at that point. I mean, most people know that I play hard and I work hard, and that's kind of how I've always based things. Did
you go to uni through the Scotland stuff as well, like through all that?
And no, well, through the youth groups, I was at university as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kids just go to bed.
That's all right. So, any other Scotland memories?
Yeah, I mean, I know you're kind of looking for the one. I know Sean mentioned it the other day, but
Sean gave me two things to ask you. He said, ask about his finger. I didn't say anything, so I'm not sure if I should ask it in a public forum, but and then the other one was James Kirtley.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was one of the games I played. Actually, it was against Sussex, I think, and I was batting away, and you know that you kind of had the run-of-mill seamers, like I think it was Martin Jenkins was bowling. I faced a few of the kind of county seamers, and they weren't particularly quick. I mean, touching 80s type of thing. Mm-hmm. And then Kirtley came on when I was batting, and I wasn't even batting with my own bat. I don't know where my bat was, right? I was batting with Gowd's bat. Right? Gowdy had given me this blooming heavy thing, and I've not exactly made a muscle. But I typically batted with a toothpick, and Kirtley comes on, and I remember I just batting away, and he plugged this one in short, and I got to here, and I top edged it down to third man. I was like, that's pretty quick. And then I got back for two, and then the next ball, I got another bumper, but this time, Kirtley, I'm sorry, Kirtley, you know, he chucks it. He chucked this one really fast, and I almost ate it. I was on my back on the field. I got to about there and realised I was going to eat that. I was nowhere near pulling it with Gowd's heavy bat as well, and ended up on my back, and that was the story. But what was it? Kirtley always remembering chirping me because we were out of the game as well, and he just goes, and I was new into the team, kind of plugging away, trying to just bat and get a few runs under my belt in that for him. And he's like, "There's no honourable draws." There wasn't, but there was a lot more fruity language in it. Now that was that one, and then I guess the other one. It's not that exciting a story actually, but I think he must be talking about when I broke my thumb. I mean,
I do. Just mention the thumb, and I was like,
yeah. I mean, I kept my whole career, and actually I didn't genuinely get an injury. I mean, for a keeper, it's pretty. Well, I say I must have been 20. No, I don't know, late 20s, almost into my 30s, standing up to Yanni's off spin, and this is a pre-season game. He bowled just nothing to it, took me on the end of the thumb, and I was like, "Oocha!" That was a stinger. That one, shaking it off, and I carried on keeping for a bit, just carried on, and then the rain came, and I went off the field, and I took the glove off, and I was like, "Do you think this one's broken?" And like the knuckle was twice the size. I think I ended up going out and I fielded. I think they put me in slips. I ended up going up that day, and I was like, well, I'll get an X-ray on it. I don't think it's broken because I can still move it or kind of move it. Then went along to the doctors, and they put up the X-ray in front of me. And before the doctor said anything, I goes, I don't think there's a break there. There's nothing wrong with that. And she goes, oh no, there's a break. So I was out the season. I wasn't the full season. I think it was like 8 weeks or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've got limited mobility in that thumb because of Yanni. So I mean, Yanni basically, it was domestic violence. That was he hit me in the thumb with a cricket ball.
So Paddy, what did you go? Oh, sorry, Stu. What were you saying?
Yeah, on you.
Paddy, what did you do after 2001 season? And did you come back over to the UK? Or
no, it was my last season overseas. I came back in 2001. Came back, played for Alberton, my home club, and along with Casper van der Walt. Casper had an unbelievable season that year. We came back, and then 2002 I played the full season, and then 2003 I went into administration. I got elected onto the Gauteng Cricket Board. Then I think I served there for about 13 or 14 years as a member of the board, and then got involved with our professional team. The Gauteng Strikers, and eventually it changed into the Gauteng Lions, or the Lions as we know it today. And I'm still involved there. I'm the convener of selectors. We spoke about it a little bit earlier while we were waiting for Stu. We don't know what the season's going to bring, but we're looking forward to it, and I'm enjoying it. Working with the various coaches. And then just changed from playing to administration, and I enjoyed it. I mean, putting back to the game, off the field, giving back was always nice. Unfortunately, I think sport has become, more politics than sport. No matter where it is in the world and what sport it is, it's not always just about the players. And I mean, even when I was over there, and a guy like Stewie and Sean, if you'd ask, why is a guy like that not playing for Scotland and getting more opportunity? There was answers already in place to answer it. So there's always just politics and where you come from and who you played for and those kind of things. So, but I'm enjoying it. I scaled down a lot on other activities in administration. So it's really just the selection that I'm involved with at the moment.
Yeah. So who's all in that Lion squad? And is Johan Lubbe in that?
Who?
Lubbe?
Vian Lubbe.
Yeah.
Vian has just left us. Vian has moved to another franchise. He's gone
because he plays for Arbroath. He's a pro at Arbroath, and he's scary good.
Yeah. He's a good cricketer. I think I must be honest. The level of cricket changes dramatically from club, where I did admire, especially Scottish cricket. There's immense pressure on the pro to perform. And that's where I think the year we were there, I mean, all our players chipped in. Everybody did their bit. So but Vian is a fantastic guy. I mean, he's a lovely bloke. And maybe with us, he was struggling to always get a start at 4 or 5 batting, on 4-day cricket. So he's moved to a franchise where I think he's going to get that opportunity. But we're looking forward to it. There's another South African, or that's in the fourth. I think he could be for Forfarshire. Lang,
Hayden Lang. Yeah, he plays for Arbroath. I think. Yeah, he's at Arbroath as well.
Arbroath. Yeah, his father played for the Transvaal for Gauteng. His grandfather is Scottish, so that's how he got to go there. So that's also a fairly decent cricketer. I think he's not too far from making his debut for Scotland. That setup? Not
my area, but I don't think he's that good.
Okay, all right.
I hope he doesn't watch it.
It's good, but at the end of the day, it's good, that they can apply their trade. So it's fantastic.
So Stu, you played in South Africa, didn't you? Cape Town for a year.
I played in Cape Town. I also played in PE. I went across to the Cape Town International Cricket Academy, which was run by Kepler Vessels at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a pretty cool experience. I mean, I'd done the Youth World Cup out in New Zealand, and then Mum and Dad says, "Well, there's no way you're sitting around the house just and stuff." So I got sent out to South Africa. So I played.
Yeah.
I think there were some good players there. Ricky Clark went and played a couple of tests for England.
Oh,
Niall O'Brien, who was the Irish keeper, guy Phil Sampson, I think it was, who played for Surrey. So there was some good cricket players in there. Oh, Michael Yardy as well, actually.
He was all right.
Yeah, so that was my first stint over in South Africa. But the pitches in P were just so flat, and the ball didn't swing. I mean, I know St George's isn't the best, but the university grounds were pretty good, and we got to play against Eastern Province. So I'm pretty sure. I don't know whether it was it might have been Robin Peterson. I can't remember. Did he play for DP, Paddy?
Yeah.
Robin Peterson. I remember batting against. I think I got stumped off of Robin Peterson charging him. So yeah, I played against EP, and then the second time I went to Cape Town, but Cape Town was less successful on the field. A lot of success off the field again, but for me, I was a streaky player. That was one of the things I would say is if I got into a bad run of form, I just couldn't find a way out of it sometimes. So
yeah,
see, I was a walking wicket at times, but then at other times I was a yeah.
So that's one thing I was going to ask you both then. What's the main differences of playing overseas in South Africa and then playing in the UK or Scotland and more general? You said it was different, Paddy. What did you find?
It's I must say when I got to Scotland, I mean, I had an experience of an overseas season, but the toughest, like I've said, is the pros. A hell of a lot of pressure on them to perform. And of course,
there was one game I saw in that season where Stoneywood scored 190 and Casper van der Walt scored 150 of them.
Yeah,
and I think the second high score was 8, or number 11.
Did we win?
No, I think we got absolutely battered. But yeah, I remember looking through that and like, this guy's got 144. We've got like 180, and we got yeah. No, so that proves your point.
Well, losing that game, we might as well have got out earlier, and we could have got for a drink a lot earlier. I mean, what does it help if we lost the game? But no, it's there's no doubt, and I mean the conditions is a hell of a lot tougher. I mean the wickets really take skill to bat on. You know, a lot of slower wickets. I think overall in South Africa the wickets are just easier to play on. They're quicker, the ball comes onto the bat. Where maybe for a guy coming from Scotland to South Africa, it's tougher again. But yeah, it's conditions definitely, and the rain. I mean, you know, the year we were there, I think we only rained out 2 games.
Yeah.
Well, there was a third. There was a third. You might not. I don't know whether you remember it, Paddy, but there was against Pollock where their pro hit 198 against us, and then so we just basically fetched leather up at Stoneywood, and then he got his 198 off for like, I don't know, 70, 80. I don't know. It was stupid. And then it rained after about 10 minutes of us batting. So chase leather and then.
Luckily,
but I must tell you, there were some quality teams we played that year, though. Eh?
Yeah, Greenock were good.
Some really, really, really good teams. Yeah. I can't remember Pollock that much. It's maybe because I don't want to remember that 190, but I do remember the one game was a big score against us. But yeah, we had a great summer. I mean, if you take the year after that, you had Kruger van Wyk as the pro, and I mean, I think Kruger played 9 games the whole season, or 10 games. The rest was all rained off. So yeah, we had a fantastic from a weather point of view. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah,
I think most of you may have heard KP over the years, but I mean that was one of the things that used to drive me batty was when it rained, because there was years when we played literally half the games, and that was the most frustrating thing. We would drive for 3 hours one way. To sit and watch the rainfall, the way the rules were set up in Scotland, and that was probably the biggest thing for me that got me. I started to lose interest in cricket for that particular reason.
Yeah, and Bob Lamb drove you everywhere. Was that for a few years? What an absolute hero of a man!
Yeah, I don't
know how he coped.
I think the drives to the game wasn't that bad. But I mean, how he made them back, I don't know, because it was mess. Yes. I mean, we just that bus was busy on the way back. yeah, he was just an absolute fantastic guy. And you know, the funny part is, if you played at People's Park, that scoreboard was never behind. I mean, Bob would update that scoreboard. He'd see that everything's working. I mean, the ladies that used to make us the teas, I mean, was just world class in the way we did everything. I mean, from there's not to exclude anybody. It was just absolutely fantastic how everything was laid on. Everybody played a part of the club. Yeah, it was just brilliant. But Bob was just exceptional. I mean, he was fantastic.
Yeah. So moving on then, Stuart. So obviously the 2006 you spoke about, you hit your first ton.
Was it? 2000?
It was. I think Mike Lowe said it was his proudest cricketing moment ever. So it was a few on Friday night and then down at Fuki, was it? Or up at Fuki?
Yeah, there's a bit of a story behind that. Actually, I've got fond memories of running Martin Reed out as well. I don't really remember getting home. It was a late one, and I mean, a lot of my scores came after a late one, but I just went out and started hitting the middle. And actually, it was against one of my bogey teams, because they had a guy called Scott Gourley, and Sean, if he'd heard this podcast and then talked about it, will tell you, I used to like nick it off the back of the bat to second slip from him, and just that day, just everything clicked. And I mean, I ran out Martin, and one of their guys came up, pretty fruity language again, but he goes, "Oh, you're just thinking all about yourself, you know, this is all about you just running your teammates out." And I remember turning around to him, and it's very rare that I used to give a chirp back, and I had a few under my belt at that point, so just says, "Hey, look, you practice as hard as you can all day, probably every week, and you're still garbage." I said, "I was out till 4 o'clock last night, and I'm smashing out of the park." That was one of my lasting memories. But I didn't have a clue what score I was on, because I still remember the moment. And I was like, they bowled a short ball to me, and I hit it, and I didn't quite get it out the middle. And I was like, "Oh, that's hitting the field out." I had no clue I was in the 90s. And actually, most of the times where I got into the 90s, I had no clue I was in the 90s. I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
And, but this one hit this ball, and I was like, "Oh, I've not got that one." I was like, "This is it, isn't it?" And it just, I don't know whether the winds picked up and it just took it over his head. And Mike Lowe was running out blubbering. that was it. I mean, both. I mean, I've only scored 200s, but both of those hundreds were after a wild night out. But I mean, I don't know how many 90s I've ended up with, but a lot of them I didn't know I was in the 90s, and I really didn't think about it too much, to be honest.
I just noticed that season you had about literally 90s.
I think I had another one or two, because I think I got one for Scotland Day. I got a 97 against MCC as well down in London.
Yeah.
But that was a hard one to take, because I knew I was on 97. I think it was 97, 98 or 99. I can't remember. But
yeah,
they started bowling short to me, and I put a few away. And then they bowled us one, and it was just played on 97 off of the back. But if I just left it or just gotten on it, but that's life, isn't it?
Yeah. Paddy, do you remember any of your big performances? Because did you say you stopped playing in 2003 altogether, or did you?
Yeah, 2000. When I went onto the board, that was the year South Africa hosted the World Cup. I had to choose between, going on the board or still playing cricket. So I went the administrative route. So but it was good.
What would you say is your best performance on a cricket field then?
Oh, no, I don't know.
The 5 for every force?
Oh no, I think I scored a 197 in one club game. But for me, it was never really about individual performances.
Yeah.
I mean, we had some memorable games. I remember playing a club game where we had 100, a 99, and a 98. By three batters. I don't think it was ever really about me. It was always about playing in a team environment and getting the best out of a team that you were a part of. And if it was your day to score some runs, you got them. And if it was your day to take some wickets, you got them. And the next day it was somebody else's turn. You know, and that's what made Stoneywood so very much like Alberton that I played for. And I mean, as a club, we had pros. Paul Collingwood played for Alberton.
Oh, right, okay.
And
He was handy, wasn't he? He was all right.
He was fantastic. Well, I'll tell you one thing.
Good games of cricket.
He was better at going out the night before and scoring runs the next day than Stewie. Because he was phenomenal. I mean, a guy like Andrew Hall that went on to play for South Africa. So, I mean, we had some really great players. But as a whole, over years, we never had superstars. You know, everybody got their turn to chip in and make it work. Bar those two players, I don't think we ever made it with superstars, and that's what I enjoyed about Stoneywood Dyce. It wasn't that you had to arrive and do the gig on your own. You had a team that could do it along with you. I think the other thing you learned from Honor Jacobs was throwing your bat.
I wasn't bad at throwing my kit.
That's another Coetzer, is it?
No, I wasn't bad. My kit. I liked my kit that much. I didn't throw it. Maybe that season I didn't like the bat, obviously. But
I must say I got into the change room after we played a game at People's Park, and somebody threw a bat, and I mean I think that was the last time anybody threw a bat that season.
It could have been Brando. Brando was an angry early on. I mean, yeah, as a youngster, used to get pretty upset, but I definitely, you know. It was a season you were there. I must have mellowed so much because.
I must tell you that we just, you know, and I just said to the guys, you know, I think if any one of you think you're good enough to throw your bat when you go out, you're totally wrong, because you know when you're really good and you go out to a stupid shot, I understand that you get upset, but there was nobody in that change room that was that good that could justify throwing their kit. So yeah, no, it was fantastic. I mean. Yeah, but yeah, for me it was never really about just individual performances. It was always about.
Do you not find? I mean, I always find I kind of wrote down a couple of other memories in cricket, and the two that I write down are ones where I've either surprised somebody or I've been surprised by myself. I mean, I still find the memories that stick out for me are actually when, you know, you've done something that you didn't expect you could do. I mean, there's like certain cricket shots that stick out in my memory that I just. You know, you're just sitting after hitting that ball going, I don't know how I've actually managed to do that. But that type of thing, and one that, I mean, sticks out in my mind, and it's probably a cricket player that not many people will remember from the club, but a chap called Dave Haxon was me and him were batting together. And I remember, this is my Babe Ruth moment. This is my golden moment in my career, if I'm totally honest. I walked down in between overs to Dave Haxon. I said, right, first ball is over, I'm going to hit this guy at the park for 6. And lo and behold, I ran down first ball, straight out the park for 6. I followed it up, and this is absolutely fitting. Most people, I expect, to probably laugh about this, because the very next ball, charged again, caught it gully. I mean, I think it sums up what is me and how you can surprise yourself. You know, you just set your mind to it and you do stuff. But as I say, for me, I never used to worry too much about the consequences of things. That was the impact for you. I think, Paddy, were there.
Yeah. What's the other one you were saying? Have you got any more?
No, I mean the other one was typical me in being late for a game. I remember I did a Lammy was the skipper, I think. I don't know who was the skipper, but late for the game by about 45 minutes because I mean, pretty typical for me, but coming off and just walking straight out to bat and making runs. But I mean, been plenty of games. I mean, actually, that reminds me of another one, a less successful one, where and Sean will laugh when I don't know whether he told us. I hope he did. But we played against Dunfermline, and
I think you said this one. No, I don't think you said this one.
No, they had two really quick bowlers. One of them was Wakas Ahmed at the time. He has been on a few of the podcasts. And Sean was batting away nicely at the other end. He was hitting it pretty nicely. But the other quick, he had a sore back, so he wasn't bowling that quick. And I got stuck. I'd been out the night before, and I couldn't see in colour. I was just seeing black and white. And Bacchus was bowling, so I was surviving, just trying to duck and dive. And eventually, he bowled this ball, and I was so late onto it, it went straight into the ground, started dribbling bouncing towards the stumps. And I turned around, I thought I better stop that from hitting my stumps, and I just smashed my stumps over with my bat. Well, that was. I'm surprised Sean didn't mention that in his podcast because we laughed for a lot of years about that dismissal. Yeah,
That's a good one.
there's been plenty of them, though. Plenty of them.
Yeah.
I mean, saying about quality cricketers, and Stoneywood and Paddy, you talked a lot about how many good cricket players there were, and we all chipped in. But Stoneywood as a club has produced quality cricket players, and obviously Kyle has one of the best records in the country. But young Mikey Lease, I remember obviously that when I was growing up, Michael was a lot younger, and he looked to be coming through and being a good player. And then I thought he went off the boil for a little bit, and then he came up into the first eventually and had one or two, I think it was 1 or 2 seasons, but then all of a sudden for me he clicked, and I still maintain to this day, if I wanted somebody to go out and get me 100 off of 30 balls, there's nobody else I would put my money on. I mean, for me, you had to, with Leesky, you've got to take the rough with the smooth. He will do something daft, but a bit like me, doesn't think about too many things. Well, he maybe does, and maybe doesn't think it through that well. But I mean, but in pure talent, he's. I would genuinely put him up as some of the innings I've seen from him have been better than a lot of professionals that I've seen. I'm still not sure about his bowling though. I used to like his off spinners, but I mean, his batting wise, he is honestly the best cricket player I think I've seen in terms of talent.
The one thing I never understood about players making it at Stoneywood is why they all had to leave.
Yeah, you want to get me started on that.
It's the one thing that's frustrated me to heaven's end is Stoneywood made them, they got there, and then they left down to Edinburgh or Glasgow or wherever the case. So yeah, that's one thing that ticked me off, is that guys had to leave, and all of our players that we produced in that club eventually went on to go play down in Edinburgh or Glasgow.
Yeah, it was always weight of runs for me, wasn't it? I mean, the year I got picked, I scored a lot of runs, and so, and I think there was proof. I mean, people believed they had to be in the top league, but I mean, I still think you're batting on a green top. If you can bat on a green top up at Stoneywood, you can bat in most places. So, I mean, Sean was one of those. He's now back and realizes his mistakes. He's not forgiven yet, but I mean. Yeah,
but let's be honest, Shire's not the force they used to be when I was over there.
No, they got relegated last year.
Yeah, shame.
But I mean, that is purely for me. That's purely down to the how they decided to go. I mean, when you were there, Paddy, we were all about coaching and development. I mean, Shire is lucky to have a location, and they have tried at some points, but they really not really followed through on developing younger players.
No, for sure, and I must say, I think in recent years, it's funny how at Stoneywood every time through an era somebody came and made a huge difference. Yeah. I mean, my time, a big guy in the club did a lot for the club was a guy like Alan Barron. Yeah. I mean, he was of all my life playing cricket, I don't think you'd find a better club man than Alan. Then you got a guy like Jan Stander come through, quality cricketer, and able to do it. So it's amazing how that baton just gets handed over from one to the other, and make sure that the club just stays there and keeps moving forward.
Yeah. KP eventually, baton handing over.
Sorry?
After the club.
Sorry?
You'll eventually be looking after the club, hopefully.
Absolutely not. All I want to do, I'll be first team captain, maybe, hopefully one day. Not anything else. That's not for me.
How has that big development around the ground affected the club in any way?
We're not too sure. We're pre-season last year, we were worried because it's ACC now, and pre-season training there was like a glare coming off it when the sun came out, and we were thinking that was going to be really when we're batting, but we didn't actually notice it at one point through the season. I don't know if it's because the sun didn't come out, but no, I think we'll be fine now. But yeah, if only they could have made it white so it could have been a sight screen. But No, I think we'll be fine. So we'll end with a very quick Q&A about your time in Scotland, Paddy, and then also Stuart. You've got a lot more years of cricket in Scotland to answer the questions on. So who was your favourite opposition? Both of you. Just love playing against.
I used to. Well, there's two clubs that stand out for me: Arbroath, and they can be difficult at times, and maybe a bit more quickly these days. But I mean, I grew up playing with a lot of the young guys out of Arbroath, so I had quite a lot of fun, and we got on really well with them. We played hard on the field, and then off the field it was fun. And the other one was Dumfries. Griggs mentioned it on his podcast, the Bevo. I mean, we used to have some great nights out with that lot. So.
Did you camp out? On the pitch? Yeah.
No, we put a tent on the sideline, and then we slept the night before, and I think the night after the game. But no, that was the two clubs I enjoyed playing the most. I guess competitively, I liked the Aberdeenshire games the most. But.
Yeah. Paddy?
For me, it was difficult. I mean, it's many years ago, but I did like the Stirling was a good game, and I must tell you to play the big clubs, the Grangers and the Greenocks and those was always good, because if you could beat them, we could really prove how good we were. In the National League, that we didn't get it right. But I do think we were more competitive than anybody anticipated us to be in that season.
Yeah. Best player played with?
Is it a local or anyone?
Anyone you've ever played with. So some name dropping maybe, because obviously we've heard Paul Collingwood. Paddy?
I'd like to go to my season there first. I mean, and there was not a better cricketer than David Lamb.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just fantastic, an utmost professional. And I mean, in my years gone by, I played, with a Paul Collingwood and an Andrew Hall and numerous other first-class cricketers. But I think the one player that really stood out for me that year was David. I mean, and it's a year that he kind of also got down to training. He was just starting his professional career, but the way we were doing things, it motivated him to get down to the club and train. And that year, we actually got guys training that never used to train. They thought they could just rock up and play, and we didn't tolerate that. So, yeah, from an all-round captain, senior player, he was just brilliant.
Stewie?
Yeah, I mean, I could wrap this up in many ways. I mean, best bat that I've ever seen over a year was Arno. I would say best bat though that most talented is Leesky. Just probably a surprise, but Leesky for me. And then best bowler I've ever played against or with is Mushtaq Ahmed, the Pakistani leg. I couldn't read it.
Cannot believe you've not picked your brother there.
Me neither. He must have really upsetted you recently, because I'm not telling you.
Honestly, I know this is a public. Well, there'll be youngsters in here, so I'll keep the language right. He was pretty garbage when he was with us. Only got good when he left. That was it. We never used to let him bat as a kid, so he just used to bowl.
That was it. You batted Sean Fielded in the Kyle Bowl.
You don't have to call him sir, do you?
I'm yet to, Paddy, I'll be honest.
MBE.
All right. Yeah, he's MB. You can be lucky. I would love to if you call him sir.
I don't think he becomes a sir. He's not quite there yet. He's got to go up one step before he's knighted.
That's all right. He's damn close.
Nah, he's done well. He has done well.
He's a fantastic lad. Fantastic.
Last question, then we'll end it on, is one player that you didn't get to play with at Stoneywood that you would have liked to play cricket with, which is a tricky one.
I think it's pretty. I would have loved to have played with Bob Lamb in his prime.
Yeah.
I've been heard how good he was. He used to, and not from other people, from his own mouth. It was apparently a gun by his own standards. But no, I would have liked to have played with Bob. That would have been. I mean, he did a lot for the club, so yeah.
I must tell you, another player in that regard, and I mean, he played in the leagues, but I mean, was Ian Leask.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I mean, Michael's got the cricket and the love for cricket from his dad. And I mean, that guy was just exceptional at his age to have run in and bowled. I mean, I'd like to have seen him in his prime. He must have been really, really exceptional.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to see him maybe towards the back end of his prime, but yeah, he was a good bowler.
Yeah, I mean,
one
he was
person I'd like to play with is definitely Pete Coetzer, hearing some of the stories. Definitely me.
Well, I'll tell you what, that is by far the greatest cricketing brain that I played with most probably in my career. And the one thing about him, nothing flustered him. I mean, he was just at one level right throughout. And yeah, Carl can be happy he got his dad's head and not his brother's. So
I wonder. There was a story. I did note down a story about what our old man how he used to make us practice, and he used to stand us up against a wall, and he used to throw the ball as hard as he can, as short as he can, and try and hit us with the ball. And so, and it comes back to the story. I remember I went over to Zach and I was pretty hopeless. I was having one of my bad streaks, but I could still pull and cut the ball. So these guys were pitching up, and I was nicking it through the slips and Chinese cutting it. And then as soon as they dropped it short, we were able to put it away. And they were like, "What is it with you Scotsmen that you shouldn't be able to pull the wickets as slow and stuff like that?" And I just remember, I always hark back to the fact that Dad used to try and pin us. It must have been great fun for him, honestly.
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean,
tennis ball and just wait it at
never bowl short to a Coetzer comes to mind.
Yeah.
What was
Sean always preaches that.
What was the address you stayed in when I was over there? You moved houses that year.
Beaconsfield, wasn't it? Or Argyle? Beaconsfield, I think.
I think you moved from Beaconsfield to Argyle.
No, we went from Argyle to Beaconsfield. That's right, because that season was a great season because you picked us up from my house just because everybody knew I wasn't going to make it to the cricket club.
Yeah, we used to stop and pick you up on our way to and I mean, some mornings you were rough as hell, but yeah, it was it was fantastic. I must tell you though that you knew the days that Pete wasn't overseas on working because if you could find anything in those boys' rooms, you did well. I mean, they just used to heap the clothing, and the cricket kit was just everywhere. You could go into that house and find any piece of equipment you needed in cricket. It was just absolutely amazing. Yeah, no, it was. I must tell you, wrapping it up, most probably out of all my years playing cricket, most probably my most memorable season ever. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, bar playing some great golf courses, including St. Andrews that year. Bob and Pauline still comes to South Africa every year for a holiday. And I get to see them. I mean, before Corona or COVID-19 arrived, Bob Lamb, Robert, the youngster, was bringing a team of 12 golfers to South Africa, and I was going to take them around the country. We've delayed that to January. So despite having an amazing season, I've had amazing friendships built up through that season. Had the privilege of going to young Gowdy's wedding a year or two ago. I must say it's the best, bar my own club, Alberton, which I grew up in, by far the best club environment that I've ever been exposed to. And it was never built by superstars. It was always built by real club people wanting to play cricket, and that was just, for me, that's been the most amazing thing, and that's why my friendship with the club has lasted for just on 20 years after being there.
Well, that's it. It's immense, is it? See you commenting on it after 20 years. I mean, that's what I was saying at the start when you saw you commenting. Obviously, I had no idea who you were before, but I asked Mike and he filled me in, and to have the amount of love for the club after 20 years speaks volumes about yourself and Stoneywood Dyce. So yeah, that's great. So anyway, any last stories before we wrap up, or any last things that you want to say and chant in the spotlight?
I could sit and speak all night, but no, I think that's the best ones.
So anyway, Stu, last thing then. I've heard in the rumour mill, aka Sean, that there's maybe a wee we come back on the cards for maybe a T20 bash or something?
Yeah, I stopped. I actually haven't really properly played cricket for since I was 29, maybe 30. And that's me 38 now. I played one game 4 years ago. I hadn't picked up a bat for 4 years, and I walked out. And I said to all the guys before I walked out, I said, I'm going to hit my first ball for 6. I haven't picked up a bat in 4 years, and I didn't quite make it. It was a few feet short of the boundary. But no, I miss the feeling of willow. You know, the leather hitting the willow. You know, feeling one out the middle. I don't miss fielding or bowling.
Keeping.
I miss keeping, but I kept last year obviously for the Legends game.
Yeah.
It feels like too much hard work these days. No, even if I get up to hit some cricket balls at the cricket club, I'd like to do that.
Yeah, well, as you say, hopefully this year we get another Legends game where you can take your coveted spot as a wicketkeeper batsman. Well, end on that then, Paddy. All the best to you and everyone. I hope we cross paths one day if you're ever over. It'd be great to meet you in person. Your love for the club is just amazing. I mean, for someone who played 15 games for the club, was here one season. It's ace, and it's ace to have you on to share the memories. I'm sure this will be a really good one. So thanks both for coming on.
Yeah, thank you very much. If it's up to my daughter, she went to Scotland to Gowdy's wedding. She wants to go to Scotland every weekend. So there's no doubt I'll be up there again, and I'll definitely come down to the club. So but thank you very much for having me.
If you make it a September, you might get a spot in the Legends game.
The Legends game, Paddy. Yeah, I think that's a good.
Make it September, you could get a spot in the Legends game as the overseas.
Well, then I'll better make it September. Although there's no snow in September, I promised my daughter snow the next time I go there. So fantastic! I believe your weather's been really bad this week.
Yeah, it's not great weather-wise.
Well, you should feel at home then.
We had our 3 days of sunshine last week, so that'll be summer. Anyway, I'll wrap this up. So thanks for watching, everyone.